It all started a quarter of a century ago, when enigmatic structures called the Sky Towers suddenly popped up all over the planet. Because of this, the global population found themselves dragged into a bizarre game dynamic, while creatures completely immune to regular weapons started pouring out of these buildings. Just when it looked like humanity was about to be wiped out, certain people who came into contact with the structures unlocked extraordinary abilities. And that's how the so-called class users stepped up, aiming to tackle this massive threat. But before anyone could even celebrate the temporary relief, a fatal, incurable disease began spreading near the towers. Luckily, a healthcare professional managed to develop an antidote using components harvested right from the invading monsters. The catch was, the substance only put the symptoms on hold for a while, forcing people to climb the tower levels in search of a permanent cure. While that relentless hunt for a real treatment dragged on, things took a sharp turn thanks to a brand new strategy. In front of a crowd of reporters, the young leader Yaoxing is grilled about whether the healing supplies are actually inside the Abyssal Demon Tower. He guarantees that taking down Mirabelos, the Abyssal Dragon, will yield the essential ingredient to wipe out the disease once and for all. The statement gives the public a glimmer of hope, even though everyone is terrified of that specific tower's insanely high casualty rate. Showing total confidence, the young heir claims the group knows exactly what they're up against and has already laid out every single preparation for the raid. With that, the crucial mission is handed over to the mercenary, widely considered the most powerful alive. At the absolute peak of the battle deep inside the structure, the massive beast delivers a brutal strike with its gigantic tail. Triggering his blood burn technique, the ranged fighter burns through his own vitality to move like lightning and dodge the hit. Relying on his sharp senses, the mercenary uses his innate talent to pinpoint the terrifying enemy's weak spot. The moment he locks onto the vulnerability but realizes he has no clear path to get close, he lets fly a rapid, massive volley of arrows. As a highly skilled level 99 archer, he pours humanity's absolute last shred of hope into this final shot. The legendary combatant goes by the name of Lin Xiu, though most people call him Deadeye because of his flawless aim. He chokes and coughs, finding himself pinned by the monster's tentacles, yet he keeps his eyes glued straight on the fight. Under the crushing pressure of the lethal opponent, he wonders if he really did screw up in the end. Right then, he finally spots an opening and executes a legendary technique, burning his remaining life force to deliver a decisive blow. A system notification flashes, congratulating Lin Xiu on successfully clearing the 100th floor of the dangerous structure. With the clash over, the fearsome abyssal dragon Mirabelos crashes down in defeat, dropping a powerful, legendary-grade shield as a reward. Raking in a massive amount of experience points and multiple legendary pieces of gear, the fighter breathes a sigh of relief, glad he actually made it through. On top of that, the system chimes in to announce he has acquired the enigmatic and priceless artifact of greed. Staring at the glowing item, Lin Xiu realizes he finally has exactly what he needs to get Xiaoyu back on her feet. Out of nowhere, a voice echoes through the silence, praising the spectacular fight that just went down. A brutal blizzard suddenly whips up right as a legendary ultimate ice blade technique is unleashed straight at him. Shocked by the walls of ice rising around him, he tries to figure out who is blindsiding him in such a cheap way. Stepping out of the snowstorm, the conspirators move into position to corner the weakened fighter. Completely frozen in place and with no way to fight back, Lin Xiu is left entirely at the mercy of the crew that ambushed him. He coughs up blood from sheer exhaustion and the backstabbing blow dealt by the very people he put his trust in. Lacking the strength to fight back, he lets the priceless healing item slip right through his fingers. The level 99 mage, Su Ying, picks up the piece with sheer disdain, mocking how effortlessly she stripped Lin Xiu of the prize. Unable to believe it, Lin Xiu whispers the mage's name while demanding to know why they betrayed him. She merely fires back a cold stare, amused by his question as if the reason should be blindingly obvious. Right on cue, the executioner Wei Wuya steps in to block his path, asking sarcastically if he's seriously that clueless. Without missing a beat, the rival stomps hard on the protagonist's wounded limb just to rub salt in the wound. He reveals that the Yaoxing group had their eyes on the artifact of greed from day one, and a nobody from the slums like Lin Xiu should have never thought about doing business with them. Glaring at the traitor with pure hatred, Lin Xiu chooses absolute silence. The warrior's quiet rage only serves to amuse his ruthless torturers even more. Wei Wuya mocks his tough guy act, getting visibly annoyed by the defiant look the fighter is still sporting. Laughing like a total psychopath, the executioner delivers a vicious slashing blow directly across Lin Zia's eyes. The executioner mocks the fallen fighter's #1 rank, but is cut off by an ally telling him to knock it off. The interruption comes from Taishan, the beefy shield-bearer who holds down the team's backline. He takes a look at the defeated warrior's pathetic condition, noting there isn't a single spot left on his body that isn't busted up. Taishan complains coldly that a body in such a trash state won't fetch a decent price on the black market. Because of that, the warrior points out that Lin Xiu brought this on himself by turning down the group's past invitations. The fighter explains that the temporary treatment business pulls in astronomical profits, so they were never going to let a permanent cure exist. Ready to wrap things up, they order Wei Wuya to deliver the finishing blow. Realizing the end is near, Lin Xiu internally curses his own weakness and lack of street smarts. He tells himself that none of them deserve a pass, including the corporation and himself, for actually believing a bunch of snakes. Wei Wuya tells the hero to shut up and take the lesson into his next life, but is suddenly stopped by a bizarre glow. A massive surge of golden energy begins pouring out of Lin Xiu's body, startling the conspirators. Realizing the immediate danger, the opponents panic as they figure out the warrior plans to take them all down with him in a chain explosion. By triggering the legendary abyssal descent, the fighter offers himself up as a sacrifice to unleash the deepest pits of hell. While the system flashes crimson warnings of unavoidable demise, flashes of his harsh life flood his mind. He remembers the exact moment he unlocked his class and started fighting non-stop day and night, just to keep his little sister safe. He also remembers the cheers of the crowd, who used to revere him as a true champion and protector of the human race. Regret washes over the fighter as he remembers how Xiaoyu, his beloved sister, hid her illness from him for the longest time. She used to try and calm him down by saying she felt fine, despite suffering from severe coughing fits in her hospital bed. In his final memories of her, the young girl mentioned she would finally stop being a burden to her brother. The younger sister begged him to live a good life, leaving the warrior wondering how he could ever do that without her around. Along with that, the screams of other people begging for help echo through the fighter's tortured thoughts. He bitter about the fact that the highly sought-after treatment was right there in his grasp, before being violently ripped away. The hero recalls his modest dreams, like buying his sister nice clothes and wiping out the corruption in the world. Yet those corporate scumbags completely ruined all his plans to support humanity. Consumed by an overwhelming hatred, he curses every single person who crossed his path and ruined his life. The monumental blast swallows everything around it in an apocalyptic flash of total devastation. However, an emergency system notification pops up, detecting the warrior's extraordinarily powerful survival instinct. The hidden unlock requirements are met, triggering an immediate integration with the powerful shard of the mystical object. A bizarre, multicolored light shields the mercenary's body as the integration process wraps up. Finally, the system cranks out a message congratulating the user on acquiring the dangerous artifact of the sin of greed. In the blink of an eye, the scene shifts, and the digital clock of a regular bedroom reads exactly 20 hours and 30 minutes. With a loud smash, Lin Xiu's hand shatters the digital alarm clock that pointed to exactly 8:30 at night. Bolting up from the bed, he asks himself in shock why on earth he's in this place if he literally just died. Staring to the side in silence, the guy looks completely puzzled by the familiar setting around him. Checking out his own reflection in the mirror, the young man notices with shock that somehow he's back to a much younger age. An enigmatic voice asks what choices he would make if he were given a fresh start, prompting Lin Xiu to snap back, asking who's there. Stepping out of the darkness, a shadowy entity appears hovering in midair and calmly begins its introduction. The massive dragon shows off its imposing stature in front of the young man, who watches the scene without uttering a single word. The monster introduces itself by the title of Asmodeus, revealing itself as the feared demon deity of avarice. Lost in thought, Lin Xiu tries to piece together if the artifact of greed ended up merging into his system at the exact moment of the blast. Right then, the demon deity announces it will lead the young man straight into the depths of the abyss of avarice. Promising to grant him matching power, the entity allows the guy to awaken a class before even stepping foot inside the tower. However, the creature simply scoffs, questioning the actual worth of a basic combat class. Next, a new system panel shatters into view, displaying the mystical Lord of Greed class. Holding the purple glow in the palm of his hand, he finds the whole unbelievable situation pretty amusing. The system instantly congratulates the user Lin Zhu on successfully awakening the hidden Lord of Greed class. A powerful surge of purple energy begins wrapping around Lin Zhu's upper body in a striking display. The system announces the force binding of his personal weapon, the Bow of Greed. Gripping the glowing bow, he's stunned to find out he can actually increase his maximum health simply by firing arrows. The demon deity warns him not to celebrate too early, given that any massive power always comes with an equal price tag. Right on the heels of that, a daily quest pops up demanding 30,000 accurate shots within a 24-hour window to satisfy the weapon's hunger. The entity mocks him, claiming an ordinary person could never hit that goal, even if they wore their fingertips down to the bone. Breaking down the rules, it points out that shots only count when draining health from targets, and finding that many living things nearby is going to be a nightmare. Locking eyes with a threatening stare, Asmodeus warns him about the brutal penalty if the young man fails to hit the daily quota. The demon reveals that for every missed shot, the guy will be dumped into the terrifying demonic dungeon of avarice for an hour. However, it also offers the option to walk away from the position entirely and live peacefully with his sister, cruising on the memories of his past life. Meanwhile, morning rolls in peacefully around the young man's house. Suddenly, a noise near the bedroom door catches Lin Zhu's attention, making him glance back with curiosity. His little sister Xiaoyu opens the door complaining about the racket first thing in the morning and asks if he's trying to tear the house down. The young girl instantly looks confused seeing her older brother acting so out of character. Pointing at the smashed clock, she protests furiously about the extra expenses on their already tight monthly budget. Overwhelmed by emotion, Lin Zhu pulls his sister into a warm, unexpected hug, catching her completely off guard. He expresses deep gratitude that she's alive and healthy right there next to him, feeling an immense wave of inner joy. She still has no clue what brought on such a sudden display of affection right after waking up. Pushing her brother away gently, the girl complains about all the sappiness, saying it felt like a final goodbye. Finding it funny, the protagonist nods along, well aware that she still has no idea about the terrifying disease that will hit her in a year. As the young girl heads off to fix breakfast, the hero makes a silent vow to do whatever it takes to rewrite the script of their destiny. Keeping an eye on his sister's movements, he steels his resolve to face whatever obstacle comes his way. Right at that moment, loud banging on the front door echoes through the whole house, cutting the fighter's thoughts short. A harsh voice from outside yells the guy's name, ordering him to open up right this second. Recognizing the aggressive tone of the debt collectors, the young man gets ready for the imminent clash. Terrified, the young girl tells him the collectors are back, but her brother calmly tells her to stay behind him. The thugs barge into the house demanding the payment that's 3 days overdue, claiming their boss is absolutely furious. In no mood for small talk, the gang leader orders his lackeys to restrain the young man by force. Staring down the intruders with pure fury, Lin Zhu remembers perfectly how these creeps ruined his life in the past. He recalls the cheap shots he had to take from these guys before he managed to unlock his abilities. In the memory, the young man gets beaten up pretty badly, even though he kept insisting he had already paid off the full amount he owed. The crew of criminals laughed at the situation, while his sister begged in absolute desperation for them to stop the beating. Snapping back to the present, the protagonist asks coldly what the deal is, since the debt is already paid off. The leader scoffs at the guy's claim, pointing out he's still a long way from clearing all his obligations. Hearing this, the young man questions the hidden, ridiculous interest rates that were never mentioned before. The collector merely looks at him with total disrespect, showing zero interest in the debtor's complaints. He argues that those are just the rules of the business, and that it's the guy's own fault for borrowing money in the first place. Right after that, one of the goons flashes a sharp blade to intimidate him and force the guy to fall in line. The criminal demands he get down on his knees and beg for mercy right now if he wants to walk away in one piece. Frightened, the girl warns her brother that all those guys are dangerous class holders. Yet the hero merely catches the edge of the knife with his bare hands, showing zero fear whatsoever. He knows full well that things are going to play out completely differently this time around. Even though his stats look completely average on paper, the warrior feels a massive surge of energy coursing through his system. The demon deity emphasizes that the Lord of Greed class boosts his leveling speed tenfold. However, the entity warns that he won't get stat points when leveling up like regular people do. The only way to grow is by completing the tasks of avarice, making this the fastest shortcut to farm power. Pissed off by the guy's boldness, the goon charges in hurling insults and setting up for an attack. Calling them parasites, the hero warns that the tables have turned and he's not the same guy he used to be. Using a single, incredibly violent move, he hurls the hefty goon a massive distance away, leaving everyone completely stunned. The rest of the criminals stand frozen, witnessing the unbelievable strength shown by the guy. Seeing their ally knocked out cold on the floor, the thugs yell out in fear at their partner's condition. The young man's sister watches the whole thing in absolute awe, wondering how he suddenly got so strong. Another goon lunges in furiously, throwing a flying kick in an attempt to retaliate for his wrecked partner. The rival roars that hell show him the massive gap between a regular civilian and a class holder. At that exact instant, the purple crest of avarice glows powerfully on the back of the protagonist's hand. The young man states he has no time to waste on them and delivers a devastating strike coated in purple energy. The opponent staggers back, heavily damaged and terrified to realize the guy has also unlocked special abilities. Completely floored, the girl wonders exactly when her brother turned into a class holder. Next, a long-haired goon steps up to the front line of the fight, wielding a glowing staff. The rival fires off an energy blast, telling the guy not to act so cocky before he gets wrecked. Lin Xiu easily dodges the purple energy blast, leaving the long-haired rival completely bewildered by the young man's insane speed. Taking full advantage of the opening, the hero closes the distance fast and lands a brutal blow, forcing the rival to cough up blood from the pain. Seeing this, the leader of the debt collectors watches in utter disbelief, realizing all his subordinates were taken down in the blink of an eye. Without giving him any room to react, the protagonist delivers a sweeping trip, dropping the rival onto the floor with absolute ease. With a shattering impact, the gang leader is sent flying, powerless against the overwhelming force of Lin Xiu's new ability. Completely panicking as he notices his fallen partners, the very last goon standing screams in terror at the combatant who keeps advancing. The guy wonders where on earth a warrior with this kind of power came from, cursing his own luck for crossing paths with him. Determined to risk everything on one final gamble, the collector activates his fire ability, screaming that hell dragged the young man down with him. But before the rival can even make a move, the tip of a purple arrow appears right in front of his face, completely freezing him in his tracks. Lin Xiu states coldly that if the smoke alarm makes a single peep, he will chop the guy into 110 pieces and string him up on the fence. Feeling the immediate threat of the end, the collector gives up entirely. Because of that, the flames surrounding the guy's body die out instantly, leaving nothing but a tense, heavy silence in the room. Weakened, the leader drops to his knees begging for his life and surrendering unconditionally to the young archer. The protagonist asks if the fight is over and orders him to go back and deliver a direct message to his actual boss. Adding that if they keep messing with his family, the consequences will be significantly worse the next time they show up. Meanwhile, the hero gathers a massive charge of purple energy in his hand, making it crystal clear he isn't playing games. The collector stares at that display of power completely terrified, unable to come up with any sort of defense. Next, the guy fires a powerful energy blast right through the bedroom window, lighting up the entire neighborhood. And he announces that he'll be making a personal visit himself to put a permanent end to this whole collection issue. He orders the leader to pick up his two knocked-out subordinates from the floor and clear out of his house immediately without looking back. Wasting no time, the guy nods in absolute panic and retreats, hauling his partners away as fast as humanly possible. Watching the scene without a word, the young sister remains completely stunned by the strength and firm stance her brother just displayed. She gives him a highly suspicious look. Curious, she asks if he ended up possessed by some immortal entity, making the guy smile and point out she's been reading way too much fiction. The hero reassures her that he's her biological brother, thinking to himself that a reincarnation process shouldn't really count as a possession. However, worry quickly returns to the young girl's face, and she turns to her brother in a shaky voice about the danger they're still facing. She points out that the guys he just beat belong to the crew of the feared Zhang Yang, which will undoubtedly trigger a brutal retaliation from the rival faction. An image appears of Zhang Yang, a furious level 25 warrior who is extremely aggressive and commands the powerful Tiger faction. Noticing the protagonist's grim expression, the girl asks fearfully what he's planning with that stubborn look on his face. He tries to calm her down with a gentle pat on the head, mentioning it's just a minor setback, while she protests for him to cut it out. Suddenly, the guy notices something unusual and quickly shifts his attention to his little sister's upper arm, going on high alert. With that, the hero abruptly grabs the girl's wrist, leaving her completely confused by his sudden reaction. A terrifying purple mark is exposed on the skin of her arm. He realizes with absolute dread that his sister's severe illness is acting up much earlier than it did in his past life. Trying to hide the damaged area, the young girl pulls her hand back quickly to keep him from checking any further. She pretends everything is under control and asks him not to worry, trying to downplay the seriousness of that scary infection. Next, the girl steps away, mentioning she's going to change her clothes and get breakfast ready, leaving the young man lost in thought in the room. The protagonist recalls that the rival faction operates as the muscle for a massive, corrupt organization to handle their dirty work. With eyes burning with fury, the young man vows that he will collect every single penny of the debt they owe him, starting right with the faction leader. He remembers with bitterness that in the past, he lacked the financial means for her medical care, a factor that led to the tragic loss of his beloved sister. But since he has the chance to restart from square one, the warrior is completely determined to rewrite this painful history. Knowing the exact location where the secret of the cure is hidden, he shifts his thoughts to the priceless component kept inside the dangerous structure. The hero notes to himself that the compound to save her life is tucked away in a hidden zone on the first floor of the tower. Meanwhile, roars of anger echo directly from inside the imposing headquarters of the feared ferocious tiger faction. The leader of the organization slams the floor in pure rage upon learning that 3 elite fighters were taken down by a regular kid. Gripping his oversized club, the boss demands answers on how his subordinates managed to get beaten up in such an embarrassing way. He rants angrily, pointing out he doesn't throw massive amounts of cash at useless lackeys just for them to get rolled over that easily. Shaking with fear, the subordinate tries to justify it, pointing out the kid possesses an unbelievable strength that defies regular standards. With zero interest in hearing any more weak excuses, the muscular colossus merely raises his massive fist, ready to punish the failure. Delivering a ruthless punch, he strikes the subordinate who is trying to make excuses, proving he tolerates zero weakness in his crew. The subordinate ends up sprawled on the floor completely battered, serving as a harsh warning to all the other members gathered there. The leader mutters about the complete lack of skill among his men. Next, he announces in a haughty tone that nobody has the right to cause trouble in the territory controlled by his faction. The lackeys watch the display of brutality in absolute silence, way too intimidated to risk saying a single word. The boss roars out orders for them to stop hesitating and drag the kid responsible for this embarrassment straight to him immediately. Facing the direct command, the thugs scramble in a panic to get the job done and escape the lethal rage of their ruthless leader. He warns himself that anyone who dares to cross him will experience the terrifying consequences in their own flesh. While this is happening, at the entrance of a high-end luxury residential complex, a security guard with a suspicious mustache notices the 2 siblings walking toward the gate. The worker looks down on the kids because of their modest clothes, telling them to check themselves in the reflection before trying to step into the area. He claims with pure arrogance that low-income people like them don't even have the right to look at the residents of that wealthy complex. Anxious, the girl asks if they might have gotten the address wrong, but the protagonist stays completely calm despite the situation. The guard smiles triumphantly and accuses them of acting like burglars trying to sneak into the perimeter to pull off a theft, cranking up the tension. A dangerous spark lights up in the warrior's eyes. The young man coldly orders the guy to get his hands off him and call the resident so he can verify his identity himself. Losing his patience, the guy twists the arrogant guard's arm, making the man yell in agony and beg to be let go right that second. He warns in an intimidating tone that if the guard doesn't back off immediately, things are going to get incredibly painful for him. Right then, the loud blare of a luxury pink sports car's horn starts echoing by the entrance gate, cutting the clash short. The pink-haired driver complains furiously about the holdup, yelling at the staff for blocking the entrance to the residential complex. He gets out of the car oozing arrogance, demanding to know why the main gate isn't cleared yet for him to drive through. The guard rushes over to offer excuses, falsely throwing the blame onto the 2 siblings for the delay by claiming he was detaining 2 trespassers. Shocked after taking a closer look, the driver recognizes the protagonist as his old school friend named Wang Yu. The worker tries to suck up, pointing out he was getting ready to kick those poor kids out for trying to pass themselves off as his relatives. However, the wealthy young man's reaction is pure fury, leaving the employee completely terrified and unable to understand the reason for such anger. Delivering a vicious kick, the rich kid attacks the useless guard and snaps, asking who the idiot was that hired someone with zero vision. He orders the security guard to get out of his sight by crawling away immediately, and vows to protect the dignity of his esteemed best friend Lin Zhu. Lin Zhu recalls that Wang Yu, his closest buddy from their academy days and the heir to a wealthy bloodline, turned out to be a shield paladin in his previous life. Because of that, he ended up gaining considerable fame and respect among the other individuals who had also unlocked combat-oriented classes. However, the memories tied to that friend's ultimate fate bring a thoughtful and melancholic expression to the protagonist's face. Tragically, Wang Yu was tricked and used as a human shield on the 58th floor, a factor that triggered the downfall of his lineage and the tragic end of his parents. Cutting into his thoughts, the young heir calls out his friend's name, noticing he was completely zoned out. Right then, Wang Yu wants to know what kind of mess he got into to come looking for him right now after such a long time. With that, the protagonist calmly states that he just laid a beating on Zhang Yang's lackeys, leaving his buddy completely speechless. He asks in disbelief why on earth he went and poked a rabid animal like that, warning him that this is a colossal mess. With that, his friend suggests they go talk at his place where it's safer, but Lin Zhu simply replies that they are perfectly fine right here. Watching their conversation in silence, the MC's little sister looks incredibly anxious about the whole situation. He asks his buddy to look after his sister for a few days, while he personally takes care of the rival gang problem. Wang Yu readily agrees to help, but he's pretty puzzled by the fact that the main character doesn't want to take cover with them. However, the warrior explains that he has much more urgent business to attend to and needs to enter the Sky Tower immediately. Not catching on, the rich kid asks if that's some kind of board game, but the girl proudly reveals that her brother has awakened his powers. He's completely shocked and wants to know if it's true, while the girl confirms it, saying her brother took down 3 warriors without breaking a sweat. Seeing his friend completely frozen in shock, the main character just keeps his eyes locked onto his own goals. He plans to venture into the dangerous structure to get the cure for his sister, determined to rewrite her fate and his friend's destiny in this new life. Right then, our hero vows to himself that he won't just change his own path, but he'll save all of them from a tragic end. While he's lost in thought, the other 2 whisper about his sudden change in behavior, making the warrior complain about people talking behind his back. Assuring them that the rival thugs won't dare step foot near the place, the young man says his goodbyes and announces he's leaving right away. Then he pauses for a moment at the door and calls out to his friend to give him one last, crucial piece of advice before heading out. The main character seriously warns his buddy that he must never, under any circumstances, choose the Shield Knight class on his tower journey. At that, the 2 are left completely clueless by such a specific and mysterious warning from the marksman. Arriving at the outskirts of the tower, various merchants are loudly advertising potions, materials, and skills to the passing hunters. Walking through the bustling black market, our hero observes all the local commotion in search of what he actually needs. A bit further ahead, an elderly vendor shouts, offering top-quality defensive shields and guaranteeing absolute honesty in his sales. Other stalls also advertise their goods at fair prices, trying to lure in the new challengers arriving at the scene. A scammer tries to sell him poison for giant rats, but the main character fires back, noting that those monsters are completely immune to toxins. The lying vendor and his partner are stunned by his knowledge, wondering if they just stumbled upon an absolute expert. The scammers mock his simple clothes, completely unaware that he's the warrior who just wiped out their entire crew of debt collectors. Ignoring the malicious taunts of the criminals, the guy stays focused and heads straight toward the massive entrance of the magical structure. Looking up, the young man gazes at the imposing building, remembering that the first floor has already been completely conquered. A decade ago, that structure appeared on the planet, and the initial floors are already well known by all the local adventurers. Enveloped by an intense, glowing blue energy, he steps through the entrance portal to begin his new rescue mission. He recalls that in just 1 week, a mysterious secret world would be discovered entirely by accident on this very same floor. In his previous life, a group of rookies from the corrupt syndicate ended up stumbling into that hidden, danger-filled zone. With that conquest, they managed to secure a priceless active crystal core, which caused an absolute frenzy throughout the entire city. Most importantly, this powerful fragment possesses the unique, miraculous property to completely cure the terrible infection. Knowing this, the warrior's eyes shine with pure determination as he plans to steal the glory right from under that megacorporation's nose. Stepping into the ruins of the abandoned city on the first floor, the guy vows to grab the item before his rivals to save his sister's life. He observes the vast, destroyed landscape around him, feeling a heavy wave of nostalgia seeing this place again after so many years. The wind blows hard through the cracks of the collapsed buildings, creating a tense, silent atmosphere across the entire region. With so many identical ruins, finding the right path is next to impossible for anyone else, but he remembers exactly where to go. Suddenly, several pairs of glowing red eyes begin to emerge from the shadows of the surrounding debris. He notices the approaching monsters and mutters that they showed up way faster than expected for this area. A horde of giant, mutant rats leaps from their hiding places straight toward the intruder, starving for fresh meat. The guy knows these are just the run-of-the-mill monsters of this starting area, serving as the perfect warm-up for his mission. Right then, our hero begins to conjure his powerful spirit weapon, causing a surge of bright purple energy to concentrate in his hands. He smirks and announces he'll use these creatures to start knocking out the massive firing goal of his daily quest. With a swift motion, the young man fires his first magical arrows, slicing through the air with extreme speed and precision. He maintains a firm stance while the bow of greed pulses intensely in a deep purple hue, ready for the next shot. One of the beasts attempts a vicious airborne ambush from behind, but he just tracks its trajectory with total calmness. Pulling the magical bowstring once more, the marksman concentrates his power into a single point to guarantee a critical hit. The pinpoint shot pierces right through the monster's skull midair, sending it crashing down lifelessly amidst the rest of the horde. A system notification pops up on the screen, confirming the quick takedown and awarding him 15 experience points. He wonders how many shots he's fired so far, while the window shows that his maximum health has increased after the successful attack. However, the racket from the combat ends up drawing an even larger number of mutant rodents, which begin to swarm the entire block. The monsters bare their sharp fangs and charge together in a coordinated strike to try and corner the intruder all at once. Facing an absurd amount of opponents blanketed across the ground, our hero finds himself right in the middle of a literal sea of hungry monsters. He finds the presence of so many creatures packed into this one spot pretty intriguing, since this definitely isn't normal for the first floor. Without giving the guy a second to think, the giant rodents desperately leap to attack him from every single angle. Showing impressive agility, the young man leaps backward and unleashes a rapid succession of precise, point-blank shots. Every purple arrow that hits its target grants a constant bonus to his physical stamina, boosting his health bar on the spot. With that, the marksman easily dodges 2 lethal bites, while continuing to blast his opponents without a second thought. Moving like an absolute ghost on the battlefield, he fires continuous projectiles that obliterate the front lines of the enemy. Noting the endless wave of beasts, the warrior reflects that the numbers are way more ridiculous than they were in his past. He thinks to himself that if the starting level had been this dangerous in his past life, he definitely would have been a goner right at the start. But the scenario now is completely different thanks to the divine arsenal and superior skills he brought back with him. With that, the main character lives up to his reputation as the world's strongest mercenary and prepares to unleash a devastating attack. He pulls back several purple energy arrows all at once in an intimidating display, daring the horde to try and step up again. Then he lets go of the bowstring, firing a literal rain of glowing projectiles that covers the entire battlefield. Caught up in the thrill of the hunt, the guy declares that this amount of shots is still nowhere near enough to satisfy his quota. He yells out that he can hunt way more monsters here, while the rain of arrows eliminates dozens of targets back to back. The bodies of the beasts begin to dissolve into pure mana dust the moment they are struck by the purple energy blasts. Watching the shot counter skyrocket, our hero laughs out loud and orders all the monsters to hurry up and turn into health points for him. Lin Xiu checks the progress of his daily quest on the system window and notices he has already fired over 10,000 shots, with just a bit more than 10 hours remaining. Right then, an alert announces he has reached level 5 and can choose between Fatal Vision, Split Arrow, and Quick Steps, prompting him to select Split Arrow. But the guy just wears a confident smirk, indicating he has a completely different plan in mind for that skill choice. With that, he decides to grab all 3 at once, activating his hidden trait of avarice which extracts everything upon leveling up. Then our hero clenches his fist as the system confirms he has learned Greedy Fatal Vision, Split Arrow, and Quick Steps. Activating the Greedy Fatal Vision skill, the main character focuses his glowing eyes on the landscape ahead to analyze his opponents. He is able to see the level and info of the approaching giant mutant rats, noticing that not a single one of them is carrying any loot. Using the Quick Step skill to move at high speed, The guy complains that the drop rate for these beasts is still absolutely terrible. At that moment, several enraged monsters rush his way trying to pin him down, letting out piercing screeches through the city ruins. The warrior wields his glowing spirit bow, preparing to unleash a swift counterattack against the oncoming enemies. Activating the split arrow skill, he fires a purple energy projectile that multiplies into several lethal shots midair. Upon impact, the struck beasts are completely pulverized by the shower of energy, turning to dust right in their tracks. Suddenly, the marksman freezes mid-motion as he notices something strange happening around him in the darkness of the ruins. From the deepest shadows, fresh screeches begin to echo as dozens of red eyes emerge, watching his every move. Realizing the first group pulled back, the young man deduces that the creatures are just setting up a new strike, finding the whole thing incredibly annoying. Out of nowhere, an extremely fast strike hits the guy, catching him off guard with the sheer speed of the enemy's charge. He realizes that the short window between attacks indicates a completely different pack of creatures is closing in. Right then, our hero notices that the monsters have managed to flank him, completely surrounding him on all sides. Unable to use his quick step since it's on cooldown, he plans to leap away to break free from the encirclement. But as he takes several consecutive hits, he realizes with surprise that the damage he's taking is completely negligible. Then a thought crosses his mind as he remembers the absurd advantages of his new combat stats. Looking at his massive and nearly untouched health bar, the guy realizes he has absolutely nothing to fear out here. With total confidence, the main character dares the monsters to come at him with everything they've got. Multiple energy blasts slice through the darkness, striking the opponents with devastating and relentless force. He mocks the situation, daring the monsters to test if their numbers can outlast his health pool, claiming this little pack won't be enough to even keep him entertained. Suddenly, a much louder screech echoes from the depths as a truly gigantic creature emerges right in front of our hero.